After the massive success of the original Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg would soon begin work on a sequel. The director's initial idea for a follow-up would have been the retrieval of the last movie's stolen embryos. After all, he'd already designed a specific portion of Nedry's death to have the camera settle on the lost Barbasol can. However, the source material's creator, Michael Crichton, would have other ideas. Production would soon begin on the film adaptation of the author's second book, The Lost World, and an entirely new island would become the focal point of this brand new story. And with this new story came the birth of yet another sequel, one that would also have heavy input from Steven Spielberg himself. This other Jurassic Park story was going to be called Trespasser, and it was being ambitiously designed to be one of the most realistic physics-based video games ever created. The game's story would revolve around a woman who'd unfortunately crash-landed onto Site B 1 year after the bull T-Rex rampaged through San Diego, and her journey off of the island would come paired with the eerie retelling of the origins of Jurassic Park by none other than Dr. John Hammond himself. Richard Attenborough would actually come back and reprise his role as Hammond from Spielberg's films, and provide one of the most haunting audio commentaries in the entire franchise's history. Hollywood actress Minnie Driver, best known for her role as Skylar in Good Will Hunting, and later Jane Porter in Disney's Tarzan, would voice our lead protagonist, Anne. With the unique way in which the game tells its story, the plot of Trespasser would serve as both a sequel to The Lost World as well as a prequel to the original movie. In order to make this work, much of Michael Crichton's novels were integrated in the backstory of what they intended to be film canon. However, issues with specific dates in the timeline would sadly render much of their work non-canon. In this game's universe, the events of Jurassic Park took place in 1989 like the book. However, in the film, the first movie takes place in 1993, creating quite the hiccup in continuity. Despite this, several of the ideas that Trespasser introduced have been salvaged and saved to be incorporated into hard canon by new members of Universal's Jurassic World team, meaning new life has very much come to the old game. The project was spearheaded by gaming icon Seamus Blackley, who would later go on to make a name for himself as being the father of the original Xbox. Originally, this title was going to ship in the fall of 1997 to coincide with the release of Spielberg's second Jurassic film. However, delays would lead to the game being released a full year later, and the final build that the public bought in retail was unfortunately an incomplete version of what was originally planned. After so much hype surrounding how groundbreaking the new 3D video game would be, Trespasser would become infamously hated. Its reputation as a complete failure preceded itself, and the story would become forgotten to many in the general movie-going public. Many computers struggled to run the game that was technically far ahead of their time in multiple ways, and the legacy that would surround this late 90s project would become cemented in gaming tragedy. During the time of this game's initial release, I was just a really young kid. My family didn't have a computer in our home at the time, and my understanding of video games was entirely composed of Sonic the Hedgehog and Crash Bandicoot. I was, however, a very big Jurassic Park fan. I eagerly awaited the VHS release of The Lost World, and that film as well as the first shaped much of my early life. That being said, Jurassic Park Trespasser is a game that I have personally never played. I've heard of all of the now legendary John Hammond memoirs and consumed as much background information that I possibly could, but I never experienced this title for myself. And now, for the first time in my entire life, I am finally going to get to play Trespasser. Due to the fact that several things from this old title have come back up in recent years, I think it's important for every fan of the series to become familiar with this older point in the saga. So this is my personal first exposure and experience with Jurassic Park Trespasser.
My name is John Parker Hammond. I was born on March 14th, 1928. What follows is a record of certain events in which I took part between the years 1980 and 1997 on an island I will call Site B. Site B was not to be a theme park, but a research station. This was where we did the real work. By 1989, International Genetic Technologies had succeeded in their design to genetically recreate the dinosaurs. It was an unprecedented accomplishment, the pinnacle of 20th century science, a work to rank with the achievements of Galileo or Einstein. But it was not all so easy or so simple as it appeared. And seldom hears the true history of such events. What happened at the place where the world changed. How it began. What were the reasons? What was the cost?
The person you're trying to reach is unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone.
Anne, are you there? It's Jill. Pick up the phone. God, don't tell me your mom was serious. You're in Costa Rica? Visiting the natives, huh? Sun, sand, and adventure? My little Indiana Anne, world traveler extraordinaire. Well, give me a call when you get back, okay? By the way, I thought you hated flying.
Auxilio, este es el vuelo CR-17. Hemos perdido poder en el mundo todo. ¡Estamos cayendo!
And here we are on Isla Sorna. Welcome to Trespasser. Okay, now I've actually had quite a lot of trouble getting this thing to run properly. For a while I was able to play this first level, but everything after that was in red pixelated boxes. Thankfully there's a dedicated fan base that are also huge Jurassic Park fans that have helped me fix the game to where I'm able to run it properly. So yes, even after 1998 there were still massive issues playing this on newer PCs. That being said though, the good thing is I've been able to kind of get accustomed to the way in which this game works and how to play it. You can move your hand and do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's really good for lining up shots, and it's kind of insane how articulated and detailed everything is. Even if some of these textures look like they were straight out of Tomb Raider 3 for the PlayStation, but that was the standard at the time, so I guess that's to be expected. Now, due to the fact that I was only able to play level 1 for a little while, I'm not going to have to do much of this tutorial stuff. But what we've got here is basically a construction level, or at least a construction zone on Site B, which it seems to be where we crashed. The pilots and everybody else just so happened to bail out. Look at this water. Look at how far you're able to see. Again, very, very impressive for the time.
Foundation, maybe.
I'm not so sure what they were trying to build, but whatever it was not completed before Hurricane Clarissa. Just to show you what you can do in this game, you can almost pick up any object and interact with anything. Very impressive for 98. Apparently the development team at Valve who were working on Half-Life 2 were very, very scared after Trespasser was such a failure, because this game really inspired them.
Here. Must be one of the offshore islands. Cocos, one of the Cinco Muertes, maybe.
Now we're going to be able to get some firearms. I'll just go ahead and show you guys how awesome
8 shots.
this level of detail is.
Heavier than I thought.
I'm actually going to line up this shot.
Keep it steady.
Just like in real life.
7. 3.
That's pretty badass. Alright, now I'm
8
definitely going to
shots.
take this. If you've seen the movies, you'll know exactly what this is. This is Robert Muldoon's Spaz 12 shotgun. This is one of the guns that's pretty much standard issue for all
3
park
shots.
workers. Since I've already used most of that ammo and I can't refill,
6 left.
we're going to be taking this revolver. It's insane, though, the level of detail that comes with this thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and toss this over the fence. Whoops. No, I'm not. Wasn't able to do
6
that
left.
correctly. Come on, Ann. There you go, girl. Now, one of the... come on, get down. One of the things you're probably going to be noticing is that there's no real indication of health or anything around.
Maybe if there's a phone line or a radio.
That's because for added realism, they took all that stuff away, kind of similar to what they did in Peter Jackson's King Kong. The way we can tell if we're hurt or not is by looking down at our breasts. And I've got a tattoo right there. When it fills red and becomes a big red heart, that's when I'm dead. But it'll incrementally get redder and redder as you kind of walk all about the place. No complaints from me. And here's going to be one of the things I've played constantly since I've been trying to get this to run properly. A cool
Engine.
sound bite.
Some kind of... Wait. International Genetic Technologies. That was the company from the dinosaur trial. After the trial, that old guy, John Hammond, wrote a book. He said it was somewhere in Central America.
My name is John Parker Hammond. I was born on March 14th, 1928.
Oh, no. Oh, God. This is Site B. This is John Hammond's Lost World.
Now, one of the things I noticed immediately when I started playing this game is that this does not really look like what the foliage looks like in the Lost World Jurassic Park. And if you know your Jurassic Park movies, you know that the jungle in Jurassic Park 3, which is the same island, looks vastly different from what we saw in Lost World. So, the reality of this, the real answer is that they were working on Trespasser back in like 96. And initially...
There must have been something in the memoir.
A Nobel Prize or a financial empire waits somewhere in a darkened room, in a dirty, derelict building, somewhere in the Pacific.
You hear those footsteps? There's going to be our first dinosaur up on this hill. Initially, Steven Spielberg wanted to film the Lost World Jurassic Park in New Zealand, where they shot The Lord of the Rings, which is kind of similar to what we're looking at here, but unfortunately only with, a lot more palm trees. Or not really unfortunately, but they just decided to go with the redwoods for the Lost World, which became iconic for a lot of fans.
8 left.
Alright, I hate to waste one of these shots.
So that's what that feels like.
Looks like we gotta get it a little bit closer. Most of the survival horror elements, which can be found in stuff like Resident Evil. Ooh, that's probably not going to work. Like puzzles and stuff. Got cut out of this game apart from a select few. And a lot of them have to do with moving these crates from what I understand. We'll get up there eventually. There we go.
Oh, man. He really did it.
Brachiosaur, oldest of our recreations by 50 million years. The only true Jurassic native.
This game is extremely atmospheric. It's really, look at that model. It's so crazy to see stuff like this in 1998. Or maybe people wouldn't have been able to see this in 1998 with how newish it looked.
I knew all along this was a stupid idea. They're probably out drinking right now. Anne? Anne who?
Alright, if I remember correctly,
Looks like 7.
when I only had one level to play, I saw something over... Oh, that's not good. Alright. Okay, I think I just used all the shotgun shells. He's stuck on a rock. That's not good.
The technology, the real trick of it, is still in there. In a darkened room in an empty building with a dirty floor, it waits. The flashpoint, the origin of Jurassic Park. A forest this wild, this unknown, has not been seen by any human since the great hunters of the early Pliocene.
Look how massive this environment is. It's a miracle we got away from that velociraptor. Uh-oh. I think I hear other footprints apart from my own. Ah, there he is.
7. 6.
Hey, we got him. So obviously these are the tiger stripe males that we saw in the Lost World Jurassic Park. From my understanding, there are actually more tribes that live on this island than just what we've seen in the second and obviously third film.
A small theropod native to China and Mongolia. Pack hunter, quite vicious and quite intelligent.
This was the place. This used to be just an urban myth.
Now see, with John Hammond saying Velociraptor native to China and Mongolia and talking about his cloned version of a Velociraptor, that's one of the few things that doesn't really line up with canon in the movies. Because Alan Grant doesn't dig up a Velociraptor in China or Mongolia. It would have been Montana. And obviously, the reality of all that stuff is that it was supposed to be Velociraptor anteropus and not Velociraptor mongoliensis, which does live in China and Mongolia and stuff like that. So that's one of the multiple problems that the overall Velociraptor stuff in the lore is. But I
Welcome
digress.
to the city of tomorrow.
Welcome to Site B, an InGen research facility. For centuries, mankind has wondered about the dinosaurs, the largest land animals ever to have lived. Now, thanks to breakthrough technologies...
Looks like Nick Van Owen's juice that he got from the worker village just didn't last too long. Alright. And once I jump over this little part was where I started seeing red pixelated images, so that would have been the start of level 2. In other words, we're about to complete level 1. I really do appreciate you guys watching this, and it's going to be a pretty big journey watching all of this Trespasser lore and just everything that goes into this forgotten Jurassic Park sequel. Alright guys. This is going to be pretty cool. And before we go, we've got a little gun box right here, so I might as well...
8 shots.
Looks like a Desert Eagle. And let's save. There's my pixelated version. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and type in... what's something they say in the Lost World? Can't use that. And that'll work. It worked. Alright guys, can't wait to see what level 2 has in store for us. Now before I go, I want to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. It really means the world to me that you guys tell me that you appreciate what I do so much, and I seriously am extremely thankful for everything that you guys do to help. Honestly, it means the world. Now I'd like to thank you all for watching this video, and hope that you all enjoy today's content. If you feel like I deserve it, I would appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.